Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. There is a quote we hear all the time by Deion Sanders. If you look good, you feel good. And I actually didn't know the second part of this quote, actually, which is if you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. And I would add, if you flirt good, you date good. And I love this on so many levels, especially with how it relates to dating. And think about it. When you feel physically great, your confidence naturally improves and you project more positivity, you have better energy, and you feel more attractive. And all the essential factors in how you connect with others. But on the flip side, when your health is suffering, it can take a serious toll on your self-esteem, leading to insecurities that many of that stuff holds you back in your love life. And moreover, toxins disrupt health, particularly hormone imbalance and mental clarity, which are crucial for maintaining confidence and positive self-image in individuals, especially over 40. But quite honestly, everybody now. I remember I was working with a client and, I did my quintessential makeover. She definitely needed, to gain her sexy confidence. We did a makeover with her clothes. I worked on her body language. I helped develop a dating plan to put herself out there. We really got her flirt on. Like everything was great. Yet she found that she was really low energy a lot of times. And then in a lot of our coaching calls, come to find out that she has been suffering through menopause a lot, and it was affecting weight gain, her body image, her energy levels, all of that. So I referred her obviously to a naturopath and just to see if she could get a little bit more information about it. And lo and behold, as she started like working on some of this stuff, it all started synthesizing. Her energy went up. She started feeling better. She was, excited to date because it was so hard for her. She's like, I don't understand. Like, I'm excited intellectually, but my body's not. And it wasn't just mental. So, the mind body connection obviously is huge. And I'm happy to report she's dating up a storm and happy as can be. I think I created a monster out of her. She's like a flirt queen now. But dating can be a source of stress and energy and anxiety and affect your physical and mental well-being. So it's important to look at the connection. So with me today, I'm so excited about this amazing guest. He is going to help me explain how taking control of your health, whether that's through balancing hormones, improving sleep, or enhancing nutrition, can elevate your self-image and empower you to date with more confidence and authenticity. I can't wait for you to hear more about his story. I'll just tell you a little bit about him. At 37 years old, he was a successful ER trauma physician, but he was unhealthy. He's going to tell a story a little bit. He weighed like 270 pounds. He smoked cigarettes, blah, blah, blah. I'll have him tell you the rest. And rejecting the conventional approach of more medication that he was told to do, his curiosity and determination led him to explore various treatments and lifestyle changes and transform his life and career through the precision of medicine. And 25 years later, he's an advocate for combining traditional and integrative medicine, focusing on an evidence-based approach that treats patients as partners. I love that. And he embraces a continuous pursuit of knowledge and integration of the latest medical advancements into the practice. And he's built over 50 clinics he keeps on going. He's just doing so much. And he was the founder of CEO of MD Lifespan. You can look him up. I'm sure you've heard of him. And I'm just going to have him tell you the rest because he's just a ball of information, energy, and he's just awesome. Welcome, Dr. Savage. Are you there?
Thank you, Kimmy. Yep, I'm all here.
Hello. Well, I felt weird telling your story because like we started talking off air about your story. I'm like, wait, hold on, wait till the podcast. Because there's so many layers. So I mean, I would love for you to start with kind of what I started with in your bio about your story, what got you into all this.
Well, what got me into all this is growing up. I mean, grew up in a small Midwest town, gay, got kicked out by my family, went to college, put myself through college, and alcoholism runs through my family. And as I got more stressed and, alcoholic started rearing its face, but, you're just a heavy drinker at that point. My point of this is then I went on to become a the doctor in one of the largest trauma centers in the world at that time. And I was a nighttime guy. And I held that position for many, many different years in various different ERs as well. And one day I woke up and I wasn't feeling well. I went back to my doctor for the umpteenth time and not feeling well. And he was putting me on my 7th pill now because at this point I'm overweight, I can't sleep, I have depression, I have high cholesterol, I'm pre-diabetic, I've, all these checklists. And he's like, well, here's your 7th medicine I want you to start taking. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. I said, it's not making me better. He goes, Paul, seriously, you're the most unhealthy patient I have. You're overweight, you smoke, you drink, you work too much, you don't play enough. Why don't you just go get healthy? Why don't you just eat better and exercise and drop some of the weight? I went out of his office and walking down and I did show you this. This is a picture of me.
Oh
That's
my
my last year picture in the ER.
gosh.
Now, if it looks like it's creased and folded, because as I walked out of the ER, I was so disgusted, I folded it and threw it in the trash. And one of my nurses pulled it out, ironed it out, and said, I know you're going to want that someday. Because I don't have many pictures of me from back in that day. And later on, 20 years later, she sent it to me after I'd built some centers. But I went home and now my background is mathematics, computers, actuarian, I did theology before I became a doctor, but I was like, I can figure this out because I realized I had no idea where to start. We are not taught anything about health and wellness or about prevention. We're just taught, okay, they have hypertension, give them this medicine. And that's very, very true. And everybody says, no, we're also taught about these other things. 2% maybe. The other 95% is all pharmacology and, and all those different things. And I went home and I got a trainer and he was the gold junior Olympic winner. And I got a nutritionist who was very well known. And I followed their instructions for 6 months and I gained 13 pounds of fat in that 6 months. And I went, this is impossible. So I went back to my doctor and talked to him again. He goes, you just need to eat better and exercise more. And that's where the bell went off, where I said, you know what? I've been saying that to people in the emergency room for 10 years. Just go eat. You just need to eat better and do more, more. And then I realized I'm doing that. I know I'm doing it right. There's something else going on here. So I'm working in the gym with my trainer and this bodybuilder comes by and I'm moaning about, I can't get this way. And the guy looks up to me and this is 1998. And he looks at me and goes, you need testosterone, he's like, and I was like, oh, dude, that's dangerous. It gives you prostate cancer and heart disease and, all these blood clots. And, oh, we don't do that. But I thought more about it and then I realized I had all the symptoms. I couldn't put on muscle. I couldn't lose fat. I had no energy. I hadn't even thought about sex or dating for 5 years. It didn't even occur to me that I hadn't had an erection in 5 years. I mean, that's how consumed I was all this. And I was like, I got low testosterone. So I ordered the test. I got it back. And you know what? I had no idea how to interpret it. I'd never been trained on how to interpret a testosterone level. I was like, what's normal? And I was at 98, which I can tell you now, that's like a level you get in 90-year-olds, and I'm 38. I didn't even know about free testosterone or estrogen, cortisol, all these different things. I went to my endocrinologist. I said, you got to give me testosterone. He goes, we can't do that. That's illegal. I said, what do you mean it's illegal? He goes, it's been banned by the doctors. It's in the Anti-Steroid Act because that's how they catch bodybuilders and throw them in jails because nobody's supposed to have prescription. The only way you can have a testosterone prescription is if you had an orchectomy, your testicles removed because you had a cancer or you had a severe head injury where you couldn't make any more. Other than that, you can't have it. I walked out of his office, I was like, excuse me. I said, bullshit, I'm going to find it. Because there's a black market.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because I was desperate. I was desperate. I was going to do whatever I had to do. And that's that medical intuitism or intuition when you suddenly hear something, you realize something, you're like, that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. Long story short, there is some people who are doing testosterone. They were getting around, and eventually we all actually got the testosterone out of the Anti-Steroid Act. But back then there was a conference. I went to it. I learned about it. I started giving myself testosterone. 7 months later, I'm down 70 pounds of fat. I'm up 30 pounds of muscle. The lights have come back on. My depression has gone away. My blood pressure has gone away. My diabetes has gone away. My weight has gone down. It was just all of a sudden I was like, what the hell? This is crazy. I'm going to go do this. There must be a lot of other guys out there like me that need this. And I decided in 2000 that I was going to leave the emergency room and head out and open up a clinic. And I opened up a clinic. And on 6 weeks into it, Suzanne Summers, who you may remember from Three's Company, and she's a wonderful, awesome woman, walked in my office. My office manager goes, Suzanne Summers here. I was like, the thigh master woman? He goes, yeah. I
Right.
said, I'll have her come in. And she sat down and she was very nice. And she goes, listen, I know you're doing men and men hormone. I said, I am. She goes, but the women need it for their menopause, including testosterone. She goes, you're doing it wrong. I said, how so? She goes, you take care of the women, they'll bring their husbands. And I say, you know what? You're absolutely right. And it was probably the single best piece of advice, business advice I had. Anyway, I learned about the female hormones from some of the other mentors that I've had through the years. And I built that into 50 centers in about 4 years. And that was called BodyLogic MD. And then at that point, I wanted to go build a software system because I wanted to collect the data. The only way to get stuff into traditional medicine, they want to know the numbers, and that's my thing, right? That's my thing. So I went out and talked to my business partner. He didn't want to do it, so I left that company, and I went out and programmed my own computer program with 1.6 million lines of code, and then launched that on the market. And by the time I sold that, about 8 years later, we had about 6 million people on it, all looking at their health. And also, so during this whole spree, my eyes were opened in such a way because I learned there's a whole bunch of testing companies out there that do amazing things that you can't get through insurance. And there's all these therapies. I mean, supplements do work. Now, 95% of the supplements on the open market are crap and you shouldn't buy them. But there
Right.
are those that actually do work, and they do work well because every drug is based on a vitamin pretty much, or herb. And there are hormones that work, and people are like, oh, they're dangerous. And now 20 years later, we're vindicated by, guess what? The women who got the natural estrogens and progesterone had lower rates of breast cancer, lower rates of Alzheimer's, lower rates of osteoporosis. And the guys who got testosterone had lower rate of prostate cancer, lower rate. I mean, it's like we were right, because how can something that your body makes naturally to energize and build your body up end up being bad for you?
Yeah.
And when you lose it, it's kind of like you lose oil pressure and the engine doesn't run as well. I always tell people your health, including dating and interacting with the life, is like a 12-wheeled semi. Every wheel has to be moving in the same direction at the same speed. Otherwise, it doesn't go well.
A
And
hundred
when your
percent.
hormones, everything starts bumping. When your nutrition goes bad, because either A, we've lost the nutrition in our food, or B, you have a stomach issue where you're not absorbing, or C, you have a microbiome that isn't working, or D, you have things in your body that are preventing those things from working. There are so many different ways that nutrition can go wrong, but we can fix every single one of them if we know what's going on. But that's not something traditional medicine do. I always laugh when people tell me I have a bad problem with my gut, it's microbiome and it's my leaky gut, so I went to my gastroenterologist. They don't do that. They don't, I mean, it's like they're the gut guys, but they don't know that you have this whole organ in there. They do, but they don't treat it. And that's what the naturopaths have taught me in 20 years. So, you come to see me and we're going to talk about your hormones, but we're also going to talk about your nutrition and your stress management and your sleep and your nutrients and your microbiome, because all those wheels have to be addressed. And then on top of all of that, there is science out there that is available today that we can predict, or we can actually measure cancer in people today with just a blood test.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a test that you can do now to see if you have Alzheimer's, confirm you have Alzheimer's. There's a cardiac test that you can do that's very easy, very low money, that shows you if you have heart disease. I'm an ODR doctor, trust me. I can't tell you how many times in 3 o'clock in the morning, the 40-year-old came through, and he might have been a little overweight, usually definitely a smoker, but not always, clutching his chest, having a big heart attack. And I'm just sitting there going, he's going to lose 30%, 40% of the muscle function. If we, and even I was just angry because why aren't people out there waving the flags in front of these guys? Because if you did a calcium scan and you had a high calcium score, it's a $200 test. You can get someplace for $50. Then you need to go see someone because something's going on there. Because it's not about your cholesterol; it's about how much damage has been done.
I'm going to stop you for a second because there's so much juicy stuff in here and I don't want to forget it and lose it. And I actually want to go back to your story and then we'll kind of get into more of the cool stuff that's going on and what we can do to better ourselves. first of all, thank you for your vulnerability with your story. And it's fun. I was laughing to myself because similar to you, like we all have our own adversity that ends up being gifts in disguise, and that's what
Yes.
drives
Oh,
us,
I love it
right?
that you said that. I love it that you said that because the most painful parts of my life have ended
Yeah.
up being the best part of my life.
100%. And you don't see it at the time until you go through it.
You
You
know,
look back, right? And you're like, oh, that's why,
and you
And
may
so,
not see it the first time you stub your toe at 18,
yeah,
and then time when 25, but when you hit 45, as I did, and everything crashes, and then suddenly out of it, you become this different person because that was the thing that needed to break. Sometimes you need to break shit.
you
Sometimes you,
definitely, oh, a lot of times you need a break shift, and NLP terms, right? Like, and I think that what's so interesting and crucial and even like meta to what we're talking about because it does relate to dating, it's like when you finally like hit that pain point where you're like, okay, something is not working, I'm the common denominator. We can't change the people around us, all we can do is look at ourselves and get a different result. That's what drives people to do something even about their dating life, and it relates to all this stuff. And what I was also kind of chuckling about is the notion of sometimes like we can help everybody else with the issue, and the very thing that we're so good at helping others with, we suck at.
yeah,
Right? Like, and as a therapist, I throw myself under the bus all the time. I was the worst dater ever when I got divorced. I was like dating as a therapist. It was awful. I put everyone on the couch. I'm like, that ain't sexy. And so, yeah, but what I was curious about, I want to take you back to the moment where you were talking about your dating life and how it's affecting like, your sex life and hormones. What was also going on mentally? Because you talked a lot about the physical aspect, but how did it affect your self-esteem and confidence?
sure. So, that's part of the growing up gay, being displaced at an early age. And at
Yeah.
that forward, you're just running on fear and anger.
Right. Right.
That's what drives you. Where am I going to get my next meal? How am I going to survive? And I'm pissed off at everything that happened. And that drove me through medical school to graduate near the top of my class, and then become one of the emergency room doctors, one of the largest trauma centers in the world. On the night shift was all that stuff, all that fear of not having enough, and so that's what drove me the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and how that drove you to be successful and, like obviously the medical world.
Successful, but
Where?
physically a mess.
Yeah, but like when,
Physically, emotionally a mess. Mentally
yeah.
successful.
Yeah, yeah. And so emotionally then, how did that affect your dating life?
Well, as I mentioned, in the last 5 years of the emergency room, I didn't date.
Yeah, you
Part of
just do it. Yeah.
I was just work,
Yeah.
go to bed at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, get up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, go do some whatever I had to do during the day, hop in the car, get back to the emergency room. And I was a workaholic because that was my life. That was it. I mean, it rarely took time away from work. And that was another big problem because a lot of that was me not wanting to deal with me and my issues and my anger and my fear. And I wasn't somebody who I liked either at that point. So that's another reason why I didn't want to date, is because I didn't like who I was, and I didn't like how I was grouchy and cranky and snappy, and I had this very sarcastic sense of humor, which I understand now is what we grew up with, but it's terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
It's like you said, like you're putting everybody on the couch during dating, and I was being my dad on every date
Yeah.
early on, sarcastic humor, and it was like, ouch, that hurts, and what do you mean that's just a joke? And so it's just kind of all that stuff. It just kind of piled up. Um, the testosterone did a lot on
Mhm.
unwinding some of that, because testosterone is your strength. It's your emotional, it's your mental, your spiritual, your sexual strength. And when you don't have it, you just don't have it. And it's really hard to control your temper. I have women whose testosterone low. One of the things that women complain about most, besides low libido, is that they don't sleep well. And the other thing
Wow.
is they snap at everything. And snap, what I mean is sometimes we go in a movie and, Doc, I never used to cry at these movies, and now I'm crying. I can't. These are women who are like CEOs and are like, they're being puddled because of these things. Or somebody comes in the room like, they're okay, what do you want? And they're like, oh, I didn't mean to do it. And it's just, and everybody's like, oh, that's hormonal. Yeah, but a lot of that's testosterone. It's so important for women because that's what builds your bone. It's what gives your brain the ability to calm itself and fight back against the stress. Without your testosterone, cortisol runs queen.
That is really, really interesting. And I love what you said about like, mentally you were pouring all your energy into the work and really, I mean, that's where your confidence lived, to be honest, right?
Oh,
Like
that was where I lived central because I couldn't
100%.
look I couldn't look in the closet. I couldn't look
Yeah.
in the dark spots. I knew they were there and I knew they were piling up, but I just couldn't, I just didn't have the ability to deal with them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's all these people listening right now, I'm sure can relate. I mean, because it could be work, it could be being a parent, it could be being even just like an over caretaker. It's like anything to displace, energy and focus outside of yourself is also
Right.
a way of numbing out, especially when things don't feel right. So I just appreciated that. Well, yeah, I would love to hear because as you started talking about like kind of some tips and practical things just to give people hope on how they can kind of overcome some of the detox stuff going on and the hormones, all that.
Well, the first thing to make sure everybody hears real clearly. I was displaced at 17 on my own, 20 bucks on the street.
Mm,
Put myself through medical school, crashed in the ER, had to face myself for the first time. And I
yeah.
want to make sure everybody hears this. You're not alone, and it gets better.
Mm.
And part of that is you can't do it alone.
Oh,
You need
thank
to,
you.
you
Yes.
need to reach out. And I was like holding everybody back because if they got behind the curtain, oh, I had all this fear if they got behind. And there's a lot of things that happen in that short period of time, getting into AA, getting sober. And it is true, if you have problems with addictions, you do need to get that done first because
Yeah.
nothing else works if you're in your addiction. I mean, it just doesn't. But when you get in your addiction, you start learning these rules. And then I got into martial arts, and my trainer gave me the same rules. And then I got into emotional health with my life coach, and they gave me the same rules. I was like, wait a minute, these rules are all the same. Be honest, have integrity, don't take it personally. I mean, we can go down the list, but I didn't know these rules. And I think that's where I talk to a lot of people is you can change.
Hmm.
It can be better. You can make it better. But you got to reach out and look for someone to show you because trust me, everybody's been down this road before.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of people out there. You just have to find the person who you hear the inclination. I get the trainer I went to, walked up there and met good looking Italian guy, one martial arts, and he goes, "I can get your weight down. It's going to cost you $4,000 for the year." I'm not going to pay you for it. You can't. I walked out of his office, but the way he said it, I knew he wasn't. I mean, I get a clamped, a little teary eyed because I knew he was serious. And turned around. I got down the street, and this voice said, "Don't do this. Go back." And I turned around and went back. See, you can turn around. You can
Mm.
undo a decision if it's and listen to those voices sometimes if it's right. And I went back up and said, "Okay, here you go." And he ended up being very important to my life, but also very important to my health
Hmm.
because he taught me things as a doctor I didn't even
Yeah. Yeah. You can't coach yourself. Absolutely.
know.
And you need
And
help.
doctors don't know everything,
Hmm.
especially in traditional doctors. Now, in the field I am with the naturopaths and the integrative doctors, that's where I've lived for almost 35 years now. I was one of the original guys way back in the 1990s who started up a group of doctors who ended up going from 50 to 36,000 talking about personalized medicine, talking about hormones, talking about the microbiome, talking about stem cells, all these things that we called it regenerative medicine. Now it's called longevity or there's certain things to it, but that's been going on for a very, very long time. And I was very successful on my career. I launched a couple fellowships to teach other doctors. I helped a lot of people through the software and through all the clinics I had. And then I retired in August of 2022 and thought, that was a great career. And I was happy to be now let's see what's next in the universe. And people ask me, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm waiting for the universe to tell me. And again, there's that's that awakening that you have that it kind of is there. I mean, not kind of, it is there. And if you just let it wait, if you listen,
Hmm.
and it will tell you. And then 3 weeks later, I read an article about how a group of Stanford PhDs had taken 6 adults and they'd done what's called plasma exchange. Now, plasma exchange, a lot of your listeners probably never heard about it. It's been around for 50 years. We use it on 167 different diseases. It's well known, but it's not the first or second line therapy of anything.
Hmm.
So, probably the most recent thing that we know about is with long COVID. It's been used in long COVID because what is plasma change? Well, it's basically an oil change, is what it is. We
Ah,
put it in the machine, the blood comes out, goes in the machine, separates to your cells and your plasma, the liquid part. And in plasma donation, it's the same thing. So if you're doing plasma donation, it's the same process, except in plasma exchange, we throw the plasma away and we give you back human albumin instead. And we do quite a bit of your plasma. So we take out 70% every time that we do this and give you back albumin. But within a day, you're making fresh, new, non-toxic, non-chemical, non-inflamed, non-oxidized, baby fresh plasma.
wow.
And you wait 4 weeks so everything kind of equilibrate in the back. You do it again. Now you're from 70 up to 91. You wait 4 more weeks and by everything equilibrates. You do it again. Now you're up to 96, then 99, and then at the fifth one, on most people, you've done almost what we consider 100% exchange. But you're exchanging it with the stuff that you make. So if your readers or your listeners are looking on the internet with plasma exchange, make sure you're not looking at plasma exchange with plasma, with
Mm.
other people's plasma. No, 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 no. Plasma exchange with albumin, which is a human protein. Totally different. Now, I'm
Huh.
an ER doc, a trauma doc. I used to put plasma up all the time on our traumas, right? All the time. And I would sit there as I'm putting up the 10th bag of plasma on a trauma victim and wondering, is the trauma going to kill him or is that 10th bag of plasma? Because there are a lot of side effects, including death, when you give people other people's plasma. But that's not the case with albumin. So I want to make that sure that
Yeah.
your listeners hear that really clear. Now, when I saw that study, and their conclusion was that they reversed all the biomarkers of aging. Inflammation went down, oxidation went down. What's the difference between inflammation and oxidation? Inflammation is the heat that your body uses to bring in all the cells, and it may make it by itself, or you have chemicals in you that can interact that make it too. And oxidation is the fire. It's what burns things. So if you give yourself an agent like a toxin and it's an oxidizer, it literally goes up to cells, DNA, proteins, and burns them like piece of paper, destroys them. Inflammation just causes things to get hot, which in some cases is good, but when it turns into chronic inflammation, it doesn't go away. That's not good because then you have this heat infecting everything throughout the body. It's kind of like your car's overheating and you're
Right.
not getting this. Now the gears are going to start getting to be a problem. So that's what plasma exchange is. But then what I did, which was because of my experience in 30 years of the integrated field, is that let's do lifestyle around that. Let's do nutrition. Let's do a set of supplements that give you back anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, detoxification, energizer. Let's put in some medication. Let's put in or some peptides. Let's put in some low dose chelator, and let's see what happens then. And so I came out of retirement, got my friends together, put this protocol together, got the machine, had some people, got them signed up, did 200 lab markers on the front side, including over 100 toxins. Because the paper that was written said they reversed the biomarkers of aging. I knew what they did is they removed the toxins. I was so sure of it. I knew I
Wow.
could do it even better. Because in all the years of 30 years, we have chelators to take out a couple heavy metals. We have charcoal to absorb some of the pesticides, herbicides. We have binders to take out some of those mold toxicities people have. You can put yourself in a sauna. But the fact is, there's so many toxins out there nowadays, over 140,000 toxins, and they're all in you to a certain degree. It's not about one toxin, it's about all of them working together against you. And if you can't go out and get all of them out nowadays, as I told you, it's kind of like a forest fire. The toxins cause the forest to catch on fire. Going in and taking out a couple of trees doesn't do anything for the forest fire. You got to take them all out. But once you take them all out, then you can go in and do replanting and whatever you need to do to get it to grow back. That's been the biggest bane of traditional medicine. And mind you, that's what we call chronic inflammation, the biggest bane in medicine, because it makes everything bad.
Mm.
And we haven't been able to do anything about it because we've known for 20 years it's the toxins. My group of doctors, I've been measuring people's toxins for 20 years. 20 years ago, I didn't see it very often. 10 years ago, it started showing up. Boy, 2017, we got a lot of information with the Flint lead crisis, and people came in and wanted to do it. But by that time, I was like getting a little concerned because it's up to about 6 to 8% of the toxins we could test were turning positive. And then before I retired, I stopped doing toxin tests because I can't get them out. I can't get all of them out. And if I can't get all of them out, I'm really not doing you any good. I have so many people who've been mold toxic or lead toxic or mercury toxic. You pick your one, and they come in to get that one out, and then they're done. They're like, but I'm not any better. That's why, because it's not getting that one out. You got to get them all out. So
So
that's the
interesting.
whole fund. That's where the whole fund came in, because we put these people through the program with 5 different exchanges. They took supplements, they took peptides. We did all these things. And not only did people, we were astounded because we thought we'd get 20-30% of the toxins out. No, we're like 80, 90, 99% of the toxins out. And here's the amazing thing. That takes about 5 months to do the process. And so we're watching them thereafter. At 6 weeks, they're even lower. At 6 months, they're even lower. At a year, they're even lower. At 18 months, they're almost gone on everybody.
Wow.
We can keep doing it. And people are like, how often do you have to do this? We
Yeah.
don't think you ever have to do it again. If you adopt your lifestyles, if you
Yeah.
make certain things. And that's what we're going to talk about with your listeners. Like, what can I do at home? What can I do today? Because there are basic things that everybody needs to do. I bet you can.
Yes.
I bet you can name a couple of them.
Yes. Well, definitely dress well. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no,
No, but
no,
that is
wait,
part of it.
back up, back up. Talk
100%.
about dressing. Talk about dressing. Talk
Yes.
about
Well,
clothes.
my
What
listeners
are-
know this, or if you're new listening, maybe you don't. But no, there's research on this as well. And
100%.
I am sure you've seen some of the studies as well, is that it actually changes the chemistry of the brain when you wear different things. It's called enclosed
Yes,
cognition, right? Like we have
absolutely.
different things and we perform differently when we dress well. And
It's
there's
also about
other
clothes.
stuff.
Also
Yeah.
about clothes. Dry cleaning and detergents. They stay on the clothes
Ah,
and they
yeah.
get through your skin, and then they're in you. So one of the things you want to do when we talk about air, food, water, shelter, in the shelter part is don't use detergent. There's ozone makers that you can wash your clothes in oxygenated water and it
Huh.
neutralizes. Don't ever use a dry cleaner again, because those are terrible things for you. Don't wear plastic or things that are made for plastic, to a degree, denim, because that gets into you with the forever chemicals. There's a whole big area out there, and women are the ones that are at the greatest risk, because also of all the makeup they use
Yeah.
and all the different cleaners they use and the fabrics that they use. We have, of all these people that we tested in 2024, which is hundreds and hundreds, I think we're over 500 patients, and these are healthy people. Okay, they're not
Uh-huh.
sick people. 50% women, 50% men. On average, they had 12 toxins, of which 5 of them were in the 95% critical range.
Oh
That
my,
means every person had on average 5, and they were like lead, glyphosate, the things you don't want to be, microplastics. And then there's this group of women, was about 10% of the women population, so about 5% of the total population, that were in the 35 and above. Nobody in between,
hmm.
just these women out here, but they tended to be women who were 50 to 60 years old. They were relatively thin, and they were what I would call beautiful. By that I mean they liked their makeup, they liked their clothing, and they were the most toxic of the group because
Oh
of the
wow.
makeup, because of the clothes. You can do things. You get rid of the fabric softener. Get a dryer ball. Get rid of the detergent. Get an ozone maker. Plus, it's better for the environment because you're not putting all those chemicals and soaps into the. There's so many things, and we have this for you, Kimmy, for all your listeners at our website on mdlifespan.com/Kimmy, Kimmy, and they can
Oh,
get this.
great.
Everything I'm saying here is in this. Kimmy says, and because we can talk about air, I mean, the air we breathe. Here's a startling fact. Where do you get exposed to most of your toxins, do you think? Where do you get them from?
I just feel like they're
At work,
all over.
yeah, but
I
that's
mean,
not, it's not. 90% of them are all in your home.
oh,
Your home,
really? No, that's
I
shocking.
mean, home is a dangerous spot. We
Wow.
talk about toxins. You have all the fabric softeners, you have
Yeah.
all the fabrics, you have the carpets, you have the clothing, you have all these different things. And then you have this, we close the box and we lock it up and then we heat it up. So we bake you inside all these chemicals.
Mhm. It
It's
makes
heat.
sense. Yeah.
Open your windows, get a HEPA filter. These are all in the HEPA. I mean, it's a dramatic change if we can just make your shelter safe with air filtration. And please get rid of the chemicals. Believe it or not, those things that make it easier to clean are killing you. And
Yeah.
let's go back to the baking powder, the toothpaste, the bleach, the
Mm.
vinegar. My house, Absolutely. I lost my mom, my grandma, and my sister to Alzheimer, and all the guys died from cancer before the age of 65. So here's the
Wow.
other thing that I need to tell people is toxins will take you out where you're genetically the weakest. And all you have to
Mm.
do is look at your family and find out where that is. And you're like, well, I have heart disease, and toxins are going to take you out there. The interesting and probably the scariest thing of all this, we've known that the major cause of chronic inflammation are the toxins. And we've done little to stop them from getting into our environment. And it's gone up and up and up to the point where now every week in the newspaper, you see microplastics, you see forever chemicals. I mean, I remember hearing about PFAs back 30, 40 years ago, and then everything went quiet. Now they're like, oh my God, we have so many PFAs and, don't eat the fish. Well, it's not that anymore. It's everywhere.
These, this is also helpful. And maybe as we wrap up, I'm listening to all this, and I'm sure there's people listening too that, I mean, this is enlightening, things that maybe you never even thought of. But also, I hope that there's like an installation of hope as well with
There
all this, that
is.
there are things that you can do. What would you tell everybody? Like, because it's also overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's all these, I'm like, well, now I got to get an ozone thing, and now I got to do this, and now
I'm going to tell you three
yeah,
things,
yeah,
just three things. Number one, download the brochure, read it over. There's simple, inexpensive
love it.
solutions on how to take care of the air, food, water, and shelter. That's the first thing everybody needs to do. And it's
Beautiful.
simple. And you don't have to do it all at once. Take your time. But there's water filters as low as $200, all the way up to $25,000. And we've gotten this information from Consumer Reports plus our own data. So it's good suggestion. That's why these numbers keep going down afterwards. And everybody should be doing that now. Number two,
And wait, what is the link for that? And I'll put it in the show notes.
it's mdlifespan.com/Kimmy. Kimmy.
Kimmy. Okay,
You.
great, great. That'd be me.
Yep, yep. The other thing is, you don't know what you don't know. Go
Mhm.
get your toxins tested. Now, you can go to our website and you can purchase a toxin kit and we'll send it to your home. And when the results come back, I'll get on the phone with you, or one of my providers will get on the phone with you for 15, 20 minutes, and we'll go over what those mean to you. Because if you
Love
don't
it.
know what you got, you don't know. And I don't know if you're one of those women that are in the high toxic range, or if you're in the other range. I'd be guessing you're probably in the high toxic range, and you
Oh
don't
my
know it because
God, I know.
what's the first symptom of toxicity? Well, in some people they may have fatigue, muscle aches, and problem with the libido and the hormones because it disrupts everything. But usually the first presenting symptom of the toxins is cancer, Alzheimer's, or a heart attack.
Mm,
That's how we know
yeah, the
you got
big
toxins.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And number three, and I think this is very important to state, the person that's at the most risk from the toxins,
Mm-hmm.
the unborn child, the unborn children, the fetus, because they're
Oh, yeah.
developing. We've known this for a long time, and now we know all the toxins are in the placenta, and we know that their meconium is filled with microplastics. Moms, before you get pregnant, do some check, get your house cleaned.
Mm.
Do what I told you, get your levels down. Check your levels again, because the vast majority of the people that we see who just follow the simple avoidance, as we say, and clean up their house, their levels come down. The body can get rid of them. That's the good news. But you got to be aware of them, and you have to know what your levels are.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I think the final words that I'd love to hear from you is to kind of close how we opened, and that is just how all of this can impact us emotionally, mentally, and give us energy to go out there and date and flirt and all of those things. Because so it's just so important, and I don't think it's talked about enough. What kind of advice would you give to people who are also living in a little bit of fear? Like they know they maybe want to do something or need to do something, they don't have the energy or the means, just like maybe a mental kind of advice that people can do to get out of that dark place.
Well, I was in a very dark place. There was 14 months there that I had a hard time doing anything, and there would be days I just sat on the edge of my bed and cried. So I've been in that dark space before. And the answer to that question is, what can they do? Is very simply, you need to look up and you need to pick up. You got to
Mm.
find, you have to find somebody, whether you're calling suicide hotline, whether you're calling AA.org, which is what I did. And this person jumped on and said, great, come on, I'll meet you. You're 2 blocks away. I'm going to meet you down. I'm going to take you to a meeting. And I was scared. And he was like, it's okay. If you have another caring soul with you, you can get through that. And if you think all this in front of you is so overwhelming, it's only one day at a time. It all
Mhm.
changes, not in a moment, but in a lot of moments you string together. So fear is good because it keeps us out of
Mhm.
trouble. Fear is bad because it keeps us from moving. So, and if you're using fear to, hey, this is good, I need to do this,
Right,
great. If you're
right.
sitting in fear and not moving because I'm afraid, you need to pick up. Like I said, don't give up, pick up.
I love that. And that advice rings true in so many different ways in your love life, dating
Yep.
life, relationships, all of that, because no one changes in a state of comfort. We only change in a state of discomfort and lean into it and use this as a motivation to change. So, oh my gosh, Dr. Savage, thank you so much for coming on. This was
Well,
enlightening and
Kimmy,
amazing.
I'd love to come back sometime and talk a little bit more about the specific protocols of the plasma exchange that we've been developing, because once you get the force out, put the fire out, it repairs and you can actually facilitate that. And what we've been doing with cognitive decline, what we've been doing with early cancer markers, what we've been doing with the HIV patients with low CD4 counts, all of this is very early on, but it's amazing that we were right. If we get all the toxins out, we could turn the inflammation off. We could do that. There's a way to fix all these things. And that, I think, is going to be the message for everybody is it's just hold on.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, thanks for joining me today. This has been the Charisma Quotient. As always, I'm your host, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com. And if your health is affecting your love life, then hop on a private call with me. We can talk about ways to get you out of this funk. And I actually have a unique opportunity. I haven't announced it yet because if you can believe it, I don't have a lot of spots left, but a few more women who would like to take it to the next level and experience a change in this part of your life, I have something for you. So, coming up in February, I am doing a small, intimate, private retreat. I have not done this before. It's brand new. It's called Inner Spark and Soul Retreat, and it focuses on nurturing your body, your mind, and your soul because we all know if you look and feel your best, that's when you attract what you want. And through like curated activities that I'm going to be doing with you, this transformative experience is going to be combining rejuvenating wellness practices, exploration of femininity energy, and self care strategies, both inside and out. And I am almost full, as I said, but I do have a few spots left. So if you're interested, here's the thing just go to askkimmy.com and let me know you're interested, or just click again that link that you see in the show notes to book a private call with me, and we can see if it's a fit. It would be a great way to get your mental and physical well being in check for the new year. A new year, a new you. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.